a bitch.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's another Chad and Mel movie hour, and you can probably guess what we're gonna start diving into. Um, this is something that was suggested to us by a mutual friend, and it happens to be probably most people's favorite movie. It's definitely one of mine, and it is most certainly Chad's favorite franchise of all time. So I'm going to turn it over to Chad and let him tell you what the big project is that we're going to work on over the next couple weeks with you guys.
So my favorite film of all time is Alien. Lest there be any confusion that it might be Predator, but I'll get more into that, like all the intricacies of Alien versus Predator and what the lesser film is and why and all that stuff, in my humble opinion. But as a kid growing up with a child's mind and eyes, Predator was certainly one of my very favorite films. It still is a favorite film and was a very, very exciting franchise. And, then to have it intermingled with Alien for however many years now that it has been. So what we're going to do is talk about Predator first, the first film starring this guy, and then we'll slowly work our way through all of the films that are connected. Originally, we were just going to basically do the Alien series, and then why not expand it out to Predator and Alien vs. Predator as well. So I have a question for you, Melissa. You watch most things just streaming, right? So you don't have that physical, like, hardcore obsession to, like, the tangible, like, item, right? Because I know, records are back in style now, and even VHS, which I have here, Predator on VHS, is now making its comeback. And I find it, like, it's certainly not as convenient, but there's something that all us nostalgia heads find super soothing about physical media. And I know you're on the convenience end. You just want to stream it. And I don't know if you want to say anything about that. But I do have both the VHS here and the Blu-ray, of course, which the Blu-ray has issues. Lots of message boards out there about that. But
what do you mean by issues?
Well, so they restored the film. They scanned the film elements, but then they scrubbed it with, like, digital cleaner. And they tried to remove a lot of the grain to make it look more like a modern day film, but they ended up just making everyone look really waxy and taking away a lot of the detail. So, this is kind of an interesting combo here. You have, like, unedited, unrestored. It looks kind of more like the film, but it's low quality VHS, and the super digitally scrubbed Blu-ray. I haven't seen the 4K version yet, but it is out now. So that would be interesting to see, because this never looked great on Blu-ray, in my opinion. It's been released like 3 or 4 times, and now, so on the 4K, it might be better. But do you have an attachment to these things at all, or no?
I do, and I want to say I don't think Arnold needs any help in the looking waxy department. I think he looks waxy enough as it is, but I actually, prior to moving from Orlando out here to the Bay, that's all I did was buy DVDs and Blu-rays, like, of every movie. But then, we kind of felt like at that point, like, everything was going digital, we were moving, so we unloaded it all. There's a lot I wish I still had. I do stream a lot, but I'm more concerned with seeing something in the theater. Like, that's priority number 1. But there are certain movies like E.T., which is my favorite movie, I have on VHS, I have on DVD, I have a digital copy. So yeah, I mean, I do have an attachment to, like, the tangible things, especially like Disney movies and the old VHS plastic containers that are worth like $100,000 now. But yeah, I think being like a collector and a cinephile, like, having the tangible item is part and parcel of the experience.
It is, but there's a lot to be said too because I always see, like, both sides, but there's a lot to be said for, like, minimalism. And if you like to travel, or if you're not planning on, like, living in one place for your whole life, which is, there's pros and cons. So definitely, it's nice to live minimal as well. But I'm not there. But it's okay, for better or worse.
It's awesome that you're not there. Your collection, and I'm speaking on behalf of to the audience as someone that's seen your collection. It's amazing.
Uh, you're too kind, but it's getting. I have some Alien toys on order, so I will some new ones. So I will. They're doing a 40th anniversary Alien. The company NECA is. So I have two versions of that. They did like a quarter scale Alien, and then the 7-inch one with chest burster and face hugger. So when we do Alien, I will present those as my latest ones, as well as my life-size Alien and all that good stuff. But so should we just dive straight into this film?
Yeah. Why don't you tell us why you chose the order that you chose for us to watch the movies in and discuss?
Right. So there's definitely pros and cons, like with everything. But I think it just, why not give the series a little leeway to be an expanded universe? As fans of any series, we love that. We love the expanded universe, right? So Alien and Predator are so unusually connected in ways that most other franchises aren't. Like there's like little connections, but these are like really, starting in Predator 2 when they showed the alien skull, which we'll get into. But and then AVP 2, obviously. And then there's places like with Prometheus and Covenant where it gets into like almost like an alternate reality or just like a parallel universe. It kind of breaks away, it gets a little messy, but yeah, so what I wanted to say from the start was that so when Predator was written in '84, it was released in '87, but they made it in '86. Alien came out in '79, of course, but Aliens, the sequel, came out in '86 as well. So it's interesting if you look at the trajectory of the Predator film after the first Alien film, and then the sequel to Alien, that trajectory that James Cameron took, not only with the writing and storytelling, but like with the combat, the military or army combat theme, and also going the route of action films. Because Alien could have gotten like a straight up sci-fi terror sequel, which I think would be like incredible and amazing to stay in that genre. But they totally went the action route, which again, as a kid, these things were like, there was nothing better, right? Especially as a kid, because you play with the action figures. And here are some Predator action figures that came out when I was a kid that I did play with, that I've had since the early 90s, from the toy maker Kenner. So I don't know the name of these guys, but I figured since I had them, I would dig them out.
Oh yeah.
And show. This guy has like a cool tail thing. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And last but not least, you know, they were very multiracial. So we got a green guy.
Yeah.
So,
with red hair, yeah.
So I love this film, Predator. Of course, first and foremost, I want to say that like a lot of stuff you and I are maybe going to say throughout this series is very much opinion. Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone's opinion is totally valid. Like it's all good. I have my own strong opinions about this kind of stuff. So I just wanted to preface with that to say that it's not that I'm right or whatever, but I'm definitely going to voice my own take on it, as are you. And so with that said, I think it's interesting to watch Predator now, right? And like with the stuff in it through the 2019 lens, it's still fun though. I think you just have to like, with a lot of these movies, even with like Die Hard or like RoboCop, for example, you just have to sort of like take off your 2019 hat and just like enjoy it as basically a dumb action movie, which is exactly what it is. And it's a guilty pleasure in that sense, and there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I watched it recently again in anticipation of this, the waxy Blu-ray, and I found it like really fun. Like it's a super fun film, and then I watched it with the commentary, and the director was talking about how he revealed the predator slowly through steps, like first with you know, the invisibility cloak, then, you know, you saw him, you know, with the mask on, the alien space mask on, then he takes that off to reveal the mandibles, the whole thing. I think that's great. Like, filmmakers of yore used to do that all the time, like with the slowly revealing, and I think that's excellent and exciting. It is important to note that they did take that from Alien, and it's just interesting how, you know, these two films don't really stack up in my eyes, for sure. Alien being a supreme masterpiece of, like, almost like, you know, Ridley Scott to me is almost like a Kubrick in on that level. Like, the director McTiernan of Predator, not so much. He did Die Hard though, which is another amazing action movie. So he is playing to his strengths. He's got the action. Anyway, I'm gonna throw it to you. You just recently rewatched it. I was long-winded, but I want to hear what you have to say.
No, that was great. Yeah, I mean, John McTiernan gifted us with, you know, some 80s and 90s action classics. I mean, you can't I can't imagine a world where Die Hard and John McClane didn't exist, and I certainly can't imagine a world without Predator. Um, Rewatching it, you know, I of course you take your 2019 hat off because you have to. We were talking about this a little bit when we were kind of prepping for this about, you know, like the slurs and the just like
Black Dog faggot content. Yeah.
Wait, what did he say?
Yeah,
What was
dead.
slack-jawed? Is that what he says?
Yeah, slack-jawed faggots. I don't take offense.
You can't, I mean, you can't even make that up. It's just so brilliantly bad.
And that guy,
Get that stinking shit out of my face.
Bunch of slack-jawed faggots around here. This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus. Just like me.
the actor that says that is now the governor of Mississippi or Missouri or something.
Oh,
They were
yeah, what's his face? The wrestler. I can't think of his name, but yeah.
right.
And,
Of course we can't right now. So hilarious. I'm speaking of. And then of course Arnold, the governor from California, former.
yeah. And it really makes me, like, when I was rewatching Predator and Predator 2, it really made me nostalgic for just like the like peak Arnold Schwarzenegger time, you know, like the 80s and 90s where he was just at his prime and it was just so
Right.
delicious. But yeah, the thing that was, and also like just the nonstop pussy jokes are amazing. And
Yeah,
it's
Predator and Alien both have a pussy joke. So even Alien isn't that classy, but they
right.
both have a good pussy joke, which I'm all about it.
Alien was a little bit more subtle. Predator was very much on the nose. Jesse Ventura, that's the whatever, the wrestler turned governor. Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're spot on in that, like the Predator, the actual Predator, the Yautja, is that how you pronounce their race? Yautja. It's Yautja, I think it is.
I'm not gonna touch that one, but
Okay.
I think you're right.
Well, it's just like when, yeah, like the
Xenomorph is easier to say, so we'll just
yeah. No, not the Predator's race is the Yautja.
right, but the alien race is Xenomorph, so that one I could pronounce. The Predator's not so much.
With you. Yeah, like the slow reveal from, you know, the camo to the reveal, you know, taking the mask off to like the full vulva on the face mandible situation.
Right.
You know,
Which
it just
is even more explicit in part 2, I think.
oh yeah, and they even like I think Danny Glover even calls it like pussy face or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I think that you know, Predator 1 and Predator 2, which we'll discuss, are obviously very different movies, but Predator 1, I wanted to ask your opinion on this in terms of like the mythology, you know, very much so like a hunting movie. Most of the Predator films are a hunting premise. And I was reading on some like boards and whatever that it's kind of canon that the predators are hunting recreationally. Like it's like they go to planets and they do this for sport. Is
Or
that pretty much
yes,
that's spot on?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to back up to something you just said, which was so awesome when you talked about just the you call it the camo, but like it is the camouflage, invisibility camouflage.
Right.
They were talking on the commentary about how they created that. I had no idea for an action film like Predator in '86 when they were making this, that they went to such lengths to put the film back through. I mean, of course, everything we know was not digital. That's that's not
Yeah.
even
It's
saying.
actually one of my questions to ask you because I didn't know how they created that effect.
Right. So what they did is they put different lenses on the camera and shot the same scene with the same camera movement multiple times, and then composited it so that there was different a different focal feel to each cutout layer, and then they composited them like within themselves. So that's why you see the different lines, and then each different line kind of magnifies what's behind it more or less, giving that feel that like something's there but it's not there. That is amazing. Okay, can we just say they did not have to do that for this relatively almost like a B film.
Right.
I mean, that's really kind of going all out. And of course, we got to talk about Stan Winston, who was involved in The Predator, which I had actually forgotten briefly. But that's amazing in and of itself. So
yeah, the
we
fact that they went
figure
to
out.
such to create that special effect is pretty badass. But
Yeah,
and then the way like it creates like this organic movement, like it's fantastic.
Predator
Yeah.
itself is a phenomenal special effect. The face and everything.
Yeah, and that was going to be my question about Stan Winston is did he design the Predator or
Sure, but can you fact check that online right now?
yeah.
Because I don't want to misstate that. But Stan Winston, from the Alien Queen to Pumpkinhead to this film, has done some of the most incredible and important, particularly like science fiction-y type of horror out there, creature horror. And so definitely this guy cannot be understated by
No.
me. So, and he has the school now that you can follow on Facebook, and the School of Stan Winston Makeup, and they're always posting shout outs to Aliens and even Alien, which of course he didn't work on, but because that goes further back, but it's pretty cool.
I was gonna say, yeah, he's responsible for an entire generation of great horror makeup and
yeah, and for sure. And how that you're a makeup artist, you go into that industry and you end up with your own damn school about it. So the guy's the legend, and so we should isolate his involvement in this film and like figure out exactly everything like what he did. That's an area we can delve more into. But
it does say though that there was an original suit that was created for the movie, and for whatever reason it wasn't working out. Apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger recommended Stan Winston design and build the new Predator. So he was responsible for it.
I have the most amazing fact that I have to share before my head explodes.
Share it.
So originally the alien, the Predator,
right?
An alien. Okay, I'm too excited. I have to.
It's okay. I love it.
Amazing. The Predator was originally going to be played by Jean-Claude Van Damme in the suit. Can you believe that? Is that the weirdest thing? Jean-Claude, and then so he got there. They started with him, and there were issues, whatever. I think he had already kind of started. I'm not sure to what degree. And then he like turned it down because he was already complaining, that you weren't going to see his face and stuff like that, and he was being like a total whatever about it. But like he could have been the Predator. Like he had no idea, obviously, how iconic. I mean, that probably would have surpassed any of this other stuff that he's done in his career. I mean, with all due respect, but like to become also, in addition to, you know, the action films and everything, to become this horror legend. Yeah, he really
fucked up. He was probably too many splits on set as the Predator, and they were like, bye.
Right. But it was definitely it was definitely to advantage that he did not become the Predator, because shorter guy, you know, obviously can move well, but shorter guy, they ended up with like this massively like 7 foot something tall guy, African American guy. Alien is also played by a Nigerian African, well, I can't say American because he was British, but African descendant guy who was also in the 7 something foot range. So it's just an interesting connection.
He passed away, hasn't he? The gentleman, the Nigerian gentleman.
Yeah, he was a graphic artist in London, and we can get more into Bellagio Badejo when we get into Alien. But yes, he is just a figure that is revered by Alien fans. And I'm not sure if it's the same way with the actor for Predator, but definitely whenever you talk about the guy that played the alien in the suit, there were actually like multiple guys, but we'll get into that. But it's the fans are like, oh, you know, like it's just so amazing. And you really did need like an elongated, super tall figure to portray both of these characters. And when you watch Predator, you almost can't. When you watch Alien, you can tell it's like a long, spindly type of guy in that suit, which is really the thing that really sells it, I think. But in Predator, you can't quite tell that it's such like a tall guy, because it's a more muscular figure and got all the armor and stuff, and it's a different feel. But I think when you see him and Schwarzenegger together, then you can really kind of tell. And I think in later films, they definitely, for Alien films, they started using like shorter people, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
No, let's not. But
let's not fuck up.
Right. I mean, just get the basics right. That's all I ask.
This is not rocket science, people. Get your shit together. I mean, the actors that played them over the course of that franchise, like, are definitely tall, but like you said, to your point, they're built like linebackers. Like, they look like football players. The thing that's so enamoring about the gentleman that played the Xenomorph in Alien is because he has such a alien body himself, you know, like aren't necessarily in proportion. He reminds me of Doug Jones and the work that Doug Jones has done as a character actor, playing like, you know, monsters and aliens, because he has these long limbs and he's super tall, 7 feet or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it's
someone else I love, Grace Jones, who had this like alien presence and was a vampire in the movie Vamp, and is just an amazing, iconic performer because of her strange look, but also beautiful because of it. And
yeah,
just pretty cool to think about. But there's when we started prepping for this, I realized something that I hadn't quite thought a lot about, and that was all of the connections between Alien and Predator. So there are all these like strange connections between them. And even like, it's just interesting how as the 80s progressed, everything went into like, everything has to be an action movie, but like for better or worse. But yeah, you do have like the similar jokes in Predator and Alien, and you have all these like little similarities, but
yeah,
because they don't seem similar on the surface at first at all. Right.
Yeah, and the fact that you have Bill Paxton, iconic role in Aliens, right? And then you have Bill Paxton, not such an iconic role, but equally Bill Paxton-esque in Predator 2, you know, making horrible jokes and acting really poorly. But I mean, later on in Bill Paxton's career, I think he did some pretty amazing work, like yes, Mayhe. But
great actor, and he's the last actor to be killed by an alien, a predator, and a Terminator. So that's fucking impressive.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I remember when he passed, there were all these cartoons of the 3 of them at his grave or his tombstone.
I missed that.
Yeah, I mean, who
What else
loves
do you want to say about
Predator?
Predator, though? Specifically that film.
Right.
Like, when did you first see that film, and what are your memories, like earlier memories of seeing it?
A Predator.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater. I'm sure I would have been probably. You said Predator came out in '87.
Yep.
I would have been 5, but I'm almost certain I saw it in the theater because my mom would take me to the movies as a single mom, and she couldn't afford a babysitter, and going to the movies was her thing, and that's where I get it from. And I was never censored, so I'm pretty sure I saw it in the theater when it came out, but I know I also saw it in the theater like at a re-release or something when I was much older. But like my first memories of watching Predator, I like visually I think of the scene where Arnold, it's like the last 10 minutes of the movie where Arnold is camouflaging himself and building a trap for the Predator,
Right.
and he's like fighting, and that's like very much like a visual memory I have. And just the imagery of the camo, like the invisibility cloak camo, and the green blood, like the
which was made by mixing lubricant with glow stick, the insides of glow sticks.
Obviously.
Which is like a carcinogen from hell, but whatever. They made an awesome movie.
All those people have cancer now, I'm sure. My God.
Yeah.
But that actually, that was a horrible joke in poor taste, but it might be true. But the blood I wanted to talk about. Now we don't have to get there now if you're not ready, but I did want to talk about the blood, the Predator blood and the alien blood, because I was reading a lot about that.
Yeah, they both have green blood, which is interesting. The Predators is more of a neon, where if you look at Aliens, which is the first time you really start to see the alien blood, it's more of like a yellowy toxic color.
Right.
Not like a color, which I think is more realistic. But anyway, I love the neon color though too. I think that's like really cool, actually.
Yeah. I was reading, and I don't know if you can correct this as being, wrong, or if it is in fact what you know, but I didn't know this. I guess it's revealed maybe in one of the AVP movies, or maybe just in one of the later Predator sequels, but the forum that I was on was saying that it must come from AVP, that the Predator's blood can actually neutralize the effect of the Xenomorph blood. Where the Xenomorph blood is acid and burns through things, the Predator blood can neutralize it because it has healing qualities. Like there's a scene in one of the Predators or one of the AVPs where the Predator puts his blood on a human and it heals their wound or something.
Right.
And I don't know what movie.
I know they like use it to seal a wound or whatever in one of those films vaguely. I still need to rewatch those. But I think it's more fan fiction that the two different species blood has any like properties against each other. I don't know.
Okay. I was just curious. I had never heard it.
Sure.
Yeah, right?
Here.
Yeah, what do you have? I have a couple more questions, but
okay.
they kind of start
well, I
to lean
can talk about
into-
the first time I saw it.
Yeah, please.
I'm not lucky enough to see this in theaters, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure I saw Alien first, which was via a rental from Blockbuster Video. Wow, what a difference! And so I just remember constantly rerenting like the same titles. Definitely Alien multiple times, like probably like 15 or 20 times I rented Alien before I finally got it or whatever. Predator, I think, was probably a Blockbuster rental. I've never seen Predator in theaters. I've seen Alien a bunch of times in theaters, just as like a re-showing, Yeah, and I love Predator, and I love those, like you were saying, the Schwarzenegger films from around that time, mainly Terminator, Terminator 2, Total Recall, and Predator are like my favorites of his. And I normally wouldn't like someone like a Schwarzenegger in a film. Like, he's a bodybuilder, he's not a good actor, he's got that awful accent, but it somehow, like, they put him in these like genius films, and it just works. It's the 80s. A lot is swept under the rug.
That's a very polite way of putting it, yeah.
You know, but like, do I like him? I don't know. I really still don't know.
Yeah, I think we just have to be comfortable with not knowing if we like Arnold really, because he's such an anomaly. But I have such respect for him as like a person. But yeah, it's Arnold. You can't put him in a box.
For sure. So those are my main thoughts on the film. You know, I like all the actors for the type of film they were going for, because they have Arnold, but then they balance him out with like Carl Weathers, who I just recently rewatched like all the Rockies, like 1 through 4. I think I got up to 4, and so he's obviously Apollo Creed in those films, and that guy is like a legend. And something I quote all the time, which drives people that know me crazy, but is the scene where they come together for the first time in the film for like the mid-air arm wrestle, focusing on the biceps, and he's like, "You son of a bitch," and then he's like, "How the hell are you?" So it's like turns from this like awful like "you son of a bitch" to like a very jovial "how the hell are you?"
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's always stuck with me, and I always repeat it. Of course, everyone says "get to the CHOPPA." That's like a huge one.
Yeah.
Slack-jawed faggot stood out a lot on this.
It's a classic. It's a classic. Yeah.
The pussy joke, which I probably can't tell verbatim, but about the echoing and
yeah, when he finally gets it right, what does he say? He's like, "I was fucking her or whatever, and I like
going down
on her or something, and I said something pussy and then something pussy again, and what did she say? Why'd you say it twice? Right? Yeah.
He's like, I didn't.
I butchered that, didn't I?
Yeah. He starts off saying that her pussy's big, but anyway.
Yeah.
We should have had that written down so we could have really said that with a Shakespeare.
Let's do the Shakespearean take at the end, and we'll cut it in and put it.
I love it.
That'll be the intro.
Yeah. So I like the technology that they give the Predator. He's got that really cool like gun on his shoulder, which shoots a laser, which as a kid, again, a lot of this goes back to like Alien. I can be proud of like my fandom for it as an adult, but a lot of Predator, not that there's I don't even think it's really a guilty pleasure, but you have to admit that a lot of it is such this childlike fascination with like lasers and muscles and action and neon green blood, and it's all stuff that like is very childlike, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So but yeah, the armor of him, obviously the mandibles, even the mask is like so cool. I mean, if Predator could have been like a terrible film so easily, if they had fucked up the creature design or just, you know what I mean, it's basically a B movie, but kind of genius to like take them and put them in a jungle, a rainforest. The whole film was shot in Mexico, but it's like so, and there were some reviews apparently that said it looks like it was shot like in New Hampshire or something, because the leaves were changing at some point in the film. I really noticed that though. I just want to say, I think it's genius to almost like Blair Witch, how they were able to create such a captivating film with like such few means, you know, and just to isolate people in a jungle like with an alien force that had never been done before. So there was some originality in that, and even though it draws so heavily on Alien and probably a bunch of other films, but yeah. So, but
I mean, and just the simplicity, like to your point of just dropping some actors in the middle of the jungle with an alien, you know, simple premise, but the jungle then becomes a character because they're fighting against the elements of that as well.
Right, exactly. I got my cat here behind me.
Oh, hi Yoda.
Hi Yoda. So yeah, but so anyway, now as an adult, it's like, okay, it's a dumb action movie, but we talked about South Park and the member berries.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have such a strong attachment to whatever fascinated them most as a kid. And then the way they see it doesn't really evolve or change over the years, because they can still kind of go back and look at it through the same lens of childhood and all that stuff, which is like a whole other conversation. But it's just interesting to think about. I think this is definitely more like a childhood film for me. And I remember being horrified when the Alien vs. Predators kind of first came out, because I was already past like teenagerness, and I was already like, oh, you know, Predator's just a dumb action movie. Alien has like these like once in a millennia artistes like H.R. Giger like creating for it, and it's such like high art almost in of that kind of a movie. But like it's interesting to think about it. You just have to like accept everything for what it is, I think. And I definitely enjoyed rewatching it though. Yeah.
Same. It was.
I thought maybe they would sully like the Alien verse by doing these AVPs, and I remember the response wasn't good at first for the AVP films. I think they're fun, and in retrospect, people kind of enjoy them more. But at the time, I remember fans were not really that happy, especially with the first one, that they had just not done, because by that point, the comic books were already out for AVP. Those came out around the same time as Predator 2, 1989, 1990. So that's when the AVP comic books started coming out. And that's kind of what influenced the film world to make AVP.
Right.
And so fans were like, will it be as good as the comic books? And apparently I have them and I've read them. I don't quite remember all the comic book stories, but apparently they're way superior to the final films, and people were pissed about that. But that's like a whole conversation for when we get to that film.
Yeah, I mean, I've not read the comics. I've read some articles about, you know, the storylines within the comics. But I mean, I remember when AVP, the first one came out, and the second one, like I was interested in seeing them, and I did see them probably even in the theater, but I was seeing them as like junk food, like Freddy versus Jason. Like I wasn't seeing them because I was expecting like high art. But in retrospect, even though they're not good films, they really do help expand the mythology and the universe of two of the most beloved monsters in the last, you know, in the 20th and 21st century. So I think that for what that's worth, you know, it's fine.
Yeah, I agree with you.
They're just, you know, fun movies to watch, you know. But the second one's definitely better, I think, by miles. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to get into this yet, but it's at the end of Predator 2, but that we first see like the crossover very subtly between the two franchises. It's not explicitly said, but you see the skull. But there's nothing explicit in Predator 1 that ties it together. It's just the foundation.
Behind the scenes, I feel like since they were so inspired by Alien in ways, that they almost like set it in that universe from the beginning, even though it wasn't in the script. It just feels like it. Like it feels like they were all fans, like from the special effects people to the director has said himself to the writers. It just feels like, it doesn't feel like Alien, but it feels like they were definitely fans of Alien. And so it just seems, it's almost like perfectly set in that universe, even before Predator 2 does that nod to it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about more in Predator 2, but yeah, to me, I always kind of grouped them. I don't know why. Like, it's so weird. When I was a kid, I kind of grouped them a little bit, and that was maybe due to, I think the comics were already out and stuff by then, but
I did too, though. I think a lot of people do, especially people that were like grew up when the movies first came out. And maybe not Alien. I wasn't alive when Alien came out, but Predator and Aliens and everything that came after. I was in, you know, anywhere between 5 and 25 years old when all of that stuff came out. But going back to like the member berries and like nostalgia porn,
Yeah.
you really named it when you talk about like the childhood slash childlike connection that is just built into the experience of watching something like Predator, where, you know, it calls to mind like action figures and like playing in, you know, your room with your toys, you know. I used to have like a Predator action figure. I have no idea what happened to it, unfortunately, but um, just that like experience of like being able to reenact the film in your bedroom, you know, with your friends or alone with your toys, and how that kind of reinforces like the impact of the movie and the experience and like what it means to you, and how you like carry it on in your life is something that
Right.
is nostalgic but also like very important. And
It's
um
it's
yeah.
like a blanket in your adulthood that you can put on, and it soothes you. It's very soothing because it brings you back to a more innocent time, a less complicated time when we were children and when we were excited and just blown away by the imaginative creativity in these films, from all aspects of these films.
Yeah.
And it just gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling because it takes you right back to that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was Aliens more than it was any of the Predator movies. Like, Aliens
Yes.
was like, I'm in my childhood when I watched that movie. And I was the same age as Newt when Aliens came out. So there's that kind of tether as well. But
That's awesome.
all, you know, when I think of Aliens or I watch Aliens, like, I'm 8, 9, 10, however many years old again. Like,
Right. Like
it's just there.
I showed Aliens to my nephew for the first time. Oh, are we still on?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, sorry, it paused for some reason.
I just showed Aliens to my nephew for the first time, and I think he was into it. It's so hard to tell, like with the
How old?
super younger generation. He's 12,
Okay.
so he's 12. You know, I'm in my 30s, so you know, he had no preconceived notions and no attachment to the film. It was totally blank canvas, unbiased, and um, I think he liked it, but he probably thought like this is like an old film. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
He wasn't blown away by it. And I'm like, geez, even today I would, as a kid, I would hope I would be blown away by some of these films. But maybe that's our bias, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's
I
a
would
little.
like, yeah, I mean, I'd like to hope so too. I'd like to think that if I were 10, 12, whatever, and saw Aliens today, I'd be like, holy shit, this is amazing. But
Yeah.
I mean, look at what technology, everything they've grown up with is CGI.
Overstimulation, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's,
CGI, like, look at Ready Player One, a film like that. Like, the CGI, like, cornucopia, like, just, I mean, it's endless, the amount of CGI that they could pack in if they want to, which is fun in its own way, but like it's just, if you're used to that and then you go back and revisit a film that was like Aliens, which was not even 35 millimeter, it was like I think he did it on 16 millimeter and then blew it up to 35 millimeter. It's just like more, it must feel like such a low tech, lo-fi experience in comparison, no matter how well it's pulled off. But
yeah. But I think to that point, you know, there's like with Midsummer and some of the other movies we've talked about, and some movies that we haven't talked about online, you know, there are some directors and auteurs that are, whether they're using practical effects or not, they're definitely going back to a modality or like a way of making film where, you know, they make you work for it as an audience instead of just sensory overload, give you everything, whatever.
which
You know,
I
yeah, and so like when you look at Predator and how they withhold seeing the creature until the last, I mean, really see the creature until like what, the last 15 minutes, and an Alien, it's not until like the last what frame or almost the last frame with well, you see it with Tom Skerritt in the tunnel, but
yeah, and
when you
and
really,
with Brett when he dies, you first really see it. but they do. They never kind of show it all at once until further toward the end. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed rewatching Predator. And Predator 2. I like Predator 2 much more. I think it's like one of those exceptions to the rule where the sequel was better than the original, in my opinion.
That about Alien, though.
Oh, I would never. I'm not stupid. I don't want you to cut me.
A lot of people do, though.
No. I think it is an excellent sequel. I don't think you can argue that, but
Right.
it's, as far as sequels go, but it's no Alien. Don't come for me. But yeah, rewatching it. I'm gonna rewatch it again too because I rented it on Amazon, so I've got some more time to play with it. But yeah, what else?
And then maybe go into the Predator 2 one, or what time are we at?
I'm good. We started early. I know it's later for you, but I can keep going if you want, for sure.
Well, how long are we into this? How far are we into this video? I don't have a counter.
We are about 45 minutes from when we hit record.
Okay.
So,
I know there's to say about Predator, but what other questions?
You do or you don't?
No, what did you have other questions you were gonna ask about Predator?
No, not a question. The only other thing I was gonna say about Predator, about what you brought up earlier, is his outfit, his armor, his costume, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to see it in more detail in Predator 2, so maybe we can talk about it then in more detail. But I love like the wrist gauntlet. That was something that always like was so badass to me. And I remember my mom, because my mom and I both think the Predator is just sexy. Like it's just a sexy.
I was just gonna say there's.
Ugly motherfucker.
It's a whole, because he's like a buff dude in a way. It makes me wonder what's like under that codpiece, maybe. I don't, not dirty, but it's probably barbed in a whole situation that we don't want, but it's interesting to think about.
I might be willing to give it a spin. I don't know. It might be a hole and not a pole. We don't know. But
a judgment.
Yeah, either way. But no, I mean he's a sexy, or they are a sexy race of creatures. And their intelligence, their sentience, but I just remember my mom always like being so like preoccupied in the wrist gauntlet and the keypad, and she always thought that was like so cool that like they had like this futuristic thing with like the weaponry, and you know they could.
When he detonates the bomb and laughs, it's so good.
Oh yeah, that ridiculous human cackle. He's like,
yeah. Oh, it's awesome.
It's like, why did they make him laugh like that?
Well, I think he was mirroring what he had heard from humans. So
okay.
It was like playback. It was like playback to the humans, their own ridiculousness.
Yeah, okay. Because, I mean, I know he was mimicking, like, stuff that they were saying, but I don't remember anybody, like, laughing like that.
Or in the second one. He mimics, which I think is awesome. That's one of the things I really like about the second one.
Yeah, and the best thing is, in the second one, there's, like, this epic callback to the first one when, in the first one, Arnold calls him an ugly motherfucker, and in the second one, when he's battling Danny Glover, who, my God, is a worthy fucking adversary, Danny Glover's about to say motherfucker, and he says mother, and then the Predator's like fucker, and it was just.
That is for the next video.
It's just a little nugget. It's just a little nugget. I can slice it.
I love it.
I'm getting excited.
I love it. Well, let's close the chapter on Predator, and then restart recording, and we'll just jump into Predator 2, and we can still talk Predator and Predator 2.
Okay, so we are going to leave you guys with that as far as Predator is concerned. Please comment below on your thoughts on the movie, any memories you have of having seen it when you were younger. Is it your favorite Predator movie? Yeah, just give us your thoughts, but we're going to sign off now, and we are going to invite you to watch Predator 2 because that's going to be what we discuss next. So fasten your seatbelts and we'll see you on the other side. Bye,
See you on
guys.
the flip side.
Okay, so I'm going to stop recording.
Stick around. What the